Now coming to another important topic of economic botany, that is the fibers. Now as we all know that fibers, all our clothes, our apparels are made up of fibers. That is, it may be cotton, it may be jute or any other such plant product. All the cottons, the tapestries, the bed covers, pillows, whatever you can think of is all made up of fibers. So before proceeding to giving a discussion about fibers, I just like to inform you that fibers are all plant products. It's obtained from gossypium, then it is obtained from jute, fibers from jute. So we'll be describing them, from which plant we take it, how do we do it, retting it and then putting it in the machinery. And before that, I would like to give you a classification of the fibers. Like how do we classify whether they are bast fibers or found in the phloem or found in the sclerenchyma. On the basis of this, fibers are initially classified. Now classification of fibers on the basis of their nature and structure. First is the bast fibers. Now bast, you know, is always associated with phloem, phloem fibers is also called as the bast fibers. So it's associated with phloem, found in the pericycle and cortex. You all know where pericycle is present and where cortex is present, in the stem and in the roots. It is derived from the dicotyledonous plants. Now when we are comparing it, first there is bast fiber associated with phloem, pericycle and cortex. Shifting to the next column, structural fibers. These are strands of small short lignified cells ensheathing both xylem and phloem. That means these type of fibers, they are short lignified cells find around both xylem and phloem. In case of surface fibers, that is the third category, they are born on the surface of stems. That is, these fibers can be on the surface of stem, leaves, fruits as well as seeds. Almost that is the entire plant covering the stem, leaves, fruits and seeds. Now coming to the second point, how it is derived. Bast fibers are derived from the dicotyledonous plants, whereas structural fibers, they are found scattered in the leaves of monocotyledonous plants. This is one of the very major difference. One is the dicotyledonous plant and the other is the monocotyledonous plant. Whereas the surface fibers, they are obtained from great diversity of plants. That is, they can be monocotyledonous as well as dicotyledonous. Then coming to the third point, usually separated by retting. Retting means we keep them in water for a quite number of time till it gets separated. That is called retting. Structural fibers are separated by scrapping. That is, we use some tool to scrap it off and remove it. That is called separated by mechanical scrapping. And the third separation is done by ginning. That is through a machine. Last point, bast fibers. What are the bast fibers? Examples are flax, jute, hemp, kennel, etc. Examples in case of structural fibers are Manila hemp, sisal and New Zealand hemp, and surface fibers, the most important of them which we are always using and where life cannot exist without is, the example is cotton and kapo. So this is the basic classification, bast fibers, structural fibers and surface fibers. You have to mention when you write that what type of fiber you are dealing with. Now this is the cotton fiber. You all see this plant, Gossypium species. When it ripens, it splits, the fruit splits, and all this cotton is in the air. Now Gossypium species, we are talking about the surface fiber, Gossypium, that is the cotton. This belongs to family Malvaceae. It is the world's most important non-food agricultural commodity. It's one of the first vegetable fibers used for textile purposes. That means it can also be asked as give an account of vegetable fibers used for textile purposes. Fiber is obtained from the surface of seeds. Production of cotton is greater than that of all other fibers put together. That means it is of the maximum importance, that is Gossypium. Cotton has been under cultivation since ancient times in two widely separated continents, South Asia and Central America. Excavation in Mohenjo-daro by Gulati and Turner revealed that the occurrence of cotton in the form of strings, Fragment of cloth covering the household articles date back to 3000 BC. The existence of cotton threads has also been mentioned in the Rig Veda, a very old scripture of Hindus. Then from India, cotton was introduced eastward to China and to Egypt. Arabs introduced in the African continent, and later on it was introduced to Europe. Hutchinson recognized 20 species of the genus Gossypium. The different species are grouped into 8 sections depending upon the number of chromosomes, which is not important. It is just for the sake of information that there are 16 wild species and 4 are cultivated. Tetraploid cottons of section Hirsuta have 26 pairs of chromosomes, of which 13 are large and 13 are small. On the basis of this information, it is believed that the tetraploid cottons of section Hirsuta have evolved through accidental hybridization between Asiatic diploids and American diploids, followed by the doubling of chromosome number. Now here there are certain species, again a chart: Gossypium arboreum, Gossypium herbaceum, Gossypium barbadensis and Gossypium hirsutum, found in different places with their chromosome number, place of origin and distribution. Gossypium arboreum, it is known as the Ceylon cotton, common name. It is found in India, Myanmar and Malaysia. Herbaceum, it is also found in India. Barbadens is in West Indies, not found in India, it is a New World cotton. And Gossypium hirsutum, the upland cotton, which is found in Africa, Manchuria, India, Greece and Australia, with various different chromosome numbers varying from 13 to 26. Now this is a graph loading cotton producing countries. India comes on the first in this graph, where we can see that it produces the maximum amount of worldwide cotton. Harvesting. Now how do we extract or how do we get this cotton from the surface fibers? Harvesting begins about 6 months prior to sowing, and it is almost a very expensive operation in cotton cultivation. Cotton is picked up as soon as the ball opens. Hand picking is done in many parts of the world where cheap labor is available. In the humid parts of the world where labor is very scarce, mechanical harvesters work on the principle of suction. For successful harvesting, it is necessary to defoliate the plants by scrapping chemicals such as calcium cyanamide, which also forces all capsules to ripen simultaneously. We all know that cotton comes out from the capsule. Now how do we process this Gossypium? Before raw cotton is spun into yarn and woven into cloth, it must pass through a number of processes. I just skip over the points because you need not go into much of the detail. Just few points: ginning, after that removal of the dust from the wall and the leaf fragments. Then roller type is employed for Egyptian cottons, where a saw type is used for American upland and Asiatic cottons. Baling, fiber that comes after gaining is processed hydraulically in a machine into bales of 500 pounds. Now picking, this is important. Baled cotton is first broken and the fibers are then passed through a scutcher where they are beaten, shaken and rolled to remove all the foreign matter. The strands are then separated and delivered in a uniform layer. At the last picking machine, cotton is condensed into a sheet form called as the lap. Then there is another process which is known as carding. Then we come down to combing and drawing or drafting. The short fibers are removed during combing, and during drawing process fibers are straightened and aligned. It is customary to apply 2 drawing operations after carding and 2 after combing. The fleecy lap is condensed through a funnel into a soft twisted rope or silver. It is further drawn out, twisted and then mended into spools. Cotton being one of the most important fibers, we discuss about cotton on the first step. Then next, not on very important list but still very important, as we find gunny bags and all the packing materials is basically done of jute. The botanical name of the plant is Corchorus species. There are various types of species. Jute is the common name belong to family Tiliaceae. Now what is jute? Jute is the least expensive but most important of all bast fibers. It comes second in production among all the natural fibers, obtained from the stems of two very important cultivated species of Corchorus, namely Corchorus capsularis, that is the white jute, and Corchorus oleotorius, which is known as the Tosa jute. The early history of jute is not known properly, but still the genus Corchorus consists of 40 species, of which 36 have been recorded in Africa. According to Kundu, the primary center of origin of Corchorus oleoris is Africa, with secondary center in India. At one time, it was monopoly crop of India, which produced 99% of the world's production. So you can see a picture of jute plantation. They are all in stands. You can see this. Now, how do we get this fabric of jute? The plants are harvested, and when nearly 50% of them are at the stage of fruiting. At this stage, both the yield and quality are good. Early harvesting is likely to give a poor and return, and the fiber lacks strength, although it has good white color. Late harvesting, on the other hand, increases the yield but produces hard fibers. Plants are close to the ground with a sickle or pulled out by hand when growing under the water. In flooded areas, particularly in many parts of Assam and Bangladesh, where the flood water rises very high, the cutters sometimes have to move down underwater to cut them. Location of fibers. Where do we search for these fibers? These fibers are found along wedge-shaped bundles outside the xylem. They are grouped in concentric rings, alternating with the thin walled tissue of the phloem, which disintegrates during retting. Each of the fiber bundle represents one strand. The individual fiber cells are seldom longer than 2 or 3 millimeters. Now, how do we process? The bundles of stems are taken to the nearest stagnant pool, and they are left there side by side so as to form a regular platform. Another layer of bundles is placed at right angles to the first one, and similarly the third and the fourth layers of bundles are put deep in water. The surface of the bundle is covered with weeds and then heavily loaded with stones, bricks and logs to keep them submerged. Submerged means they are put underwater so that they remain underwater for a long time. This is called as the retting process. This goes for 10 to 30 days. At first, the root ends are beaten with wooden to loosen the fibers. Then finally, it is complete when the bark can be easily peeled off. Then the free ends are wrapped firmly around the fingers, and the stems are jerked backward and forward so that the fibers can move out from the stick. They are spread out in the sun or bamboo racks for 2 to 3 days and then finally rolled into bundles. After cotton and jute, we come to another important fiber, very important fiber, which is called as the flax fiber. Botanical name Linum usitatissimum, family Linaceae. It is one of the oldest cultivated plants known to mankind. The place of origin of flax is not very well known, but it is found somewhere in the coastal lands of Mediterranean. The best quality of flax comes from Belgium and other adjoining countries of Netherlands and France. Flax is an annual plant with a slender stem, greyish green in color, bearing alternately placed small oval or lanceolate leaves. This is a picture of the flax plant. It has nice blue flowers. Now, how do we harvest them? The harvesting operation is done when the lower 2/3 of the stem are turned yellow and there is no leaves. Unlike other fiber crops, flax plants are pulled from the field instead of being cut. The fiber occurs in discrete groups or aggregates of many cells in the pericycle. The number of such fibrous bundles is about 30, arranged in a circular ring around the vascular zone. Coming after harvesting, now how do we process it? The harvested plants are left in the fields for 2 to 3 days. The process involves 4 steps. Rippling, that is, dried flax is stripped of its leaves and capsules with least possible damage. Then retting, that means putting them in immersed water tanks for several days. Scutching means the fibers are removed from the internal woody core, and hulling, the short and tangled fibers constituting the toe are separated from the long fibers with the help of machines. The long unbroken fibers are called as the line fibers. So, this is a comprehensive account of the three main major fibers that is in your course, and you have to go through all the steps properly. And the uses of all the fibers, naturally textiles, ropes, tweeds, twiners, bed sheets, as I had told you earlier.